Good afternoon, everyone. I think we have almost everyone from the lunch area. So we can start this plenary. And for today, we would like to, with your help, look at the future of data-intensive computing, which is the topic of this conference and the scope of work of the EGI Federation. This year is a strategy year for the Council, so we are quite busy consulting stakeholders, scientific communities to get their view on how they see the future and their role in scientific computing. And in this session, we will have an opportunity to first have a bit of information from my colleague Sergio Andreozzi, who is leading strategy work together with the Council. So we will know about progress of the EGI Federation, status and outlooks as we are developing the strategy. And following to this, we will have, I think, excellent panel. I don't want to spoil all the panelists, but you find them already on WUVA if you're really curious. So we will have an opportunity to hear from scientific communities, from infrastructure providers dedicated to science from other regions outside Europe to have a broader perspective. So we will engage in, I think, a nice discussion, and I really count on your questions. So after the panel, we will also like to have your view, and I hope as we go through the session, you can think of questions or comments. All of this will count for us to assemble and prepare a strategy that is meaningful to the community. And concluding, Sergio again will summarize the results of the polls that were running during the few days this week during the conference. So we will look already at the feedback that you have provided through WUVA and what were the recurring messages. So this will take approximately an hour. So with this introduction, I think we can start with the first presentation. And I'd like to ask Sergio to come to the podium. And here the clicker.
Thank you, Tiziana, and welcome back. So I will warm up the session with some of the ideas that have been in discussion within the EGI Federation. And then we see also after with the panel also reviewing what you provided, how these ideas will be confirmed or maybe they need to be evolved. And before moving to the future, I would like to recap a bit on some success stories from the 2024, from the EGI Federation and the EGI community at large. And first of all, an overview on the one of the key platforms on the Federation, which is the high-throughput computing, enabling large-scale processing through running jobs over more than 220 data centers all over the world, with a main footprint in Europe, and with 42 countries involved. The other major platform that is part of the Federation is the Federated Cloud, where last year we saw some changes, like there's a new registry for virtual machine management, or also there's a new way to deploy managed containers through the platform so that the researchers don't need to care about it. And here the infrastructure counts around 31 nodes, mainly again main footprint in Europe, with involvement also of Africa and Asia. Looking a bit about some key figures, last year was the first year that the Federation crossed more than 100,000 users. It was a major milestone in the history of EGI. And also we saw sustained computing in terms of on the high throughput computing platform. On the cloud, there was a bit of decline. That was a sign also and not because there is no interest, but because there was say decrease in funding to enable cross-border service. So this also gives a good sign of how important it is to complement national funding together with funding that enable cross-border access. And the number of projects participated by EGI or coordinated reached the number of 37, which is very great numbers. And the number of the core of the federation, which are the council participants, is 28. And the last figure also I want to mention is about the number of publications that have been enabled by services provided by the federation, which we estimate to be around 2,800 over the last year. A bit of mention about what are the, how the patterns of interacting using EGI is evolving. And here we have a number of 5 major patterns that we identify. And the first one is more about the more traditional, if you want, where there are maybe communities who they have computing needs for their own infrastructures, and they would, but they miss the resources and the capacity, so they would like to find external platforms where they can bring their own data, analyze, and so on. So that's more on the traditional way we interact and support the communities. Another way is the use case number 2, where we enable and help communities to perform interdisciplinary science through connecting and discovering and analyzing different types of data from different communities. Third one is more about adopting and evolving and creating new technologies, in this case for digital twins applied to science. This morning we saw the overview of the almost final results from the InterTwin project. The number 4 is another emergent area, which is the adoption of AI in science. Yesterday we had the Imagine project. We saw that although now there's this big wave on generative AI, there is also some other type of AI, which is also important and useful for research. And the last one is more the bringing the expertise of the EGI Federation in federating different sites outside to, for instance, to emerging research infrastructure who are distributed. Maybe they also have federation capabilities to build inside. And there we can bring our expertise and help them to create the federation by using some of the EGI Federation core services. Moving a bit on the way forward, I would like to start first by mentioning some of the gaps or needs that have been identified by a study performed by the ES3 groups. This is a landscape study that was published in 2024, and in the digital sector, we identified 6 major needs or gaps. So one is that I'm mentioning this because the ES3 is one of the key stakeholders for the EGI Federation. So we work with them, with many of the research infrastructures in the roadmap, in a more, say, business-to-business type of relationship. And one of the needs is that they need to get closer to infrastructures and establish long-term partnerships so that they don't need to reinvent the wheel. They can use as much as we can from what has been created, also working with other research infrastructure. The second is that although there are federations like EGI, there's still an opportunity. There are many national infrastructures who can be more effectively used by bringing and simplifying the utilization. So that's another area that is still seen also with the emergence of EuroHPC, for instance, as a way, or other HPC facilities as a way to bring together in what we call a computer continuum. The third one is more to provide all the capabilities for the data storage and analysis that are essential for make a good use and extract knowledge from data. So here also there's some gap on improving what is possible today. And then one of the gaps identified is also that at the moment there's a bit of distance between EuroHPC and the European Open Science Cloud, and the interaction should be strengthened. And another one is more connected also again to the computer continuum. Once you federate a different type of computing infrastructure, it can be HPC, it can be more cloud or high throughput computing, edge, they may come with different access policies. So one maybe does access excellence, peer review evaluation, another one is more policy-based. But for researchers, it's difficult to manage all this different diversity. And having more flexible allocation methods that also support long-term use of infrastructure is an area of improvement. And the last one also, once research communities that want to build something on federated infrastructure or they want to bring their own local application to a public infrastructure, they also need to learn or be supported with tools, with trainings, and that also is an area where federations like EGI can help. Looking a bit about the trend, if I see about the journey of the last years within EGI, we see that the scope and the portfolio of activities have been broadening. With the GIS project, we started, it was the first probably major project where we worked more closely with research infrastructures to help them building their own science gateways on top of a horizontal infrastructure. And then we diversified the portfolio, moving into digital twins and to AI adoption in science. And also we had the two projects we kickstarted this year, like the EOS Data Commons and Rescale, which also continue on the path of bringing data and compute together for exploiting research data. And also we strengthened the collaboration with the environmental science community through the ENVI Up Next project. And with the Spectrum project, we are more, say, working for a more long-term roadmap for federated, what we call compute and data continuum for, especially in the area of radio astronomy and high energy physics. Bringing this together, okay, as a research areas moving forward, we see, first of all, the continue to work on the compute continuum. EGI Federation has been always integrating a diversity of capabilities. This year, we plan to add the HPC as a service within EGI. And by the end of the year, we should launch it as an official service in the portfolio, and this will augment and expand the current capabilities. And here we are focusing on more middle tier centers that are not part, for instance, of the EuroHPC, so it's more complementary capability. Then we will continue to work with research communities for enabling them to federate the data and make it available for high performance access for analysis with computing available capabilities. AI, that's okay, it's a hype, but also it's a transformational change we're going through. This will change the way it can change both internally, the way we manage the infrastructure, the way we interact with the user, but also the way researchers will conduct research. So that's something that will stay. European Open Science Cloud, here we have EGI playing and participating in 3 possible roles. At the moment, we participate in implementing, running the EOS KU node, so more about building federation capabilities within the EU node. We can also bring an expertise of federating or also other services from the EGI portfolio into emerging national nodes or thematic nodes. And the third one could be that we are, there is the work on creating an EGI EU node, which is more combined with the research infrastructures for a multi-thematic node where EGI can bring more the horizontal layer, the federation capabilities, research infrastructure bring their own data and more the application layer. And so we're working on this idea of a multi-thematic node, let's say, as one of the possible nodes within the EOS Federation. The work on digital twins, okay, will continue, building on the results of the intertwin, so it remains in the agenda. The other activities on the data spaces, that's an area where we already engaged through the Green Deal data space, also in the area of climate. And so this is important, so European policies where we will continue to be present. green computing is also an important policy as the computing capacity grows. Also, we need to think about not only financial sustainability, but also environmental sustainability. And then strengthening the partnership with the ARIs and co-developing together the services for the future. It will be also a way of operating. And finally, it's more about training and providing a repository of tools and transferring innovation between the all research infrastructures we work with. And I will finish with this view on the way EGI, I think, could evolve. If you look at the current EGI stakeholder, most of the majority from the council, the provider side, is from the computing storage capabilities, so more kind of horizontal capabilities. Plus, we have this, what you see in orange here is the core, that is the enabler for this federation. And our view is that we, as we are already doing in projects like EOS Data Commons, Rescale, we did in the past with the EGIAs, we would like to bring closer the content providers as our primary players in the federation, and to make for them easy to, through an expanded EGI core, to connect with the compute and storage providers, and to build their own services for data and create the data exploitation platforms for their own researchers. And on the left-hand side, we see also this important pillar, which is innovation ecosystem. There we see, I think there's a need to improve and give more opportunities for the experts within the community to get together, organize innovation groups in different thematic topics, and keep the conversation like we have in this conference, but also active during the year, and have groups that come up with new ideas, new way to solve problems, new collaborations, and new ideas for projects. Also in that element, there will be the training and support, and the repository of software components that can be used to build data exploitation platforms. That's the overarching view we are working on at the moment. And we'd like to close with a Chinese proverb that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is now. So we'd like to invite everybody to think about, okay, what are the best plants we can plant today for a brighter future. And thank you on behalf of the EGI Federation and the Council for all your contribution. Thanks.
Sergio, why don't you take the seat here at the table, and we'll introduce the panelists. So just to join us, please. Stay there, as you like. Okay, so we are now ready to start our panel. And I'd like to introduce one-on-one the panelists that will engage with you in discussions about the strategy. And the first panelist that I wish to introduce you is Anabela Oliveira. Please come to the podium. Just take a seat, and then we can use the mic on the table for our interventions. Second panelist is Christos Arvanitidis. Am I the only one who gets it wrong, the name? No. Christos is CEO of LifeWatch ERIC. LifeWatch is a very strong research infrastructure engaged in biodiversity and data integration for biodiversity conservation. So with Christos, we will have the point of view of a major European research infrastructure which has been for years engaged in data integration in the environmental sector. The third panelist is Anka. Anka Hienola, so this is easier. Anka is a leading specialist at FMI in Finland, Finnish Meteorological Institute. Thank you, Anka, for being here. With Anka, we will hear the voice of a specialist who has been active at national level in the Nordics, but also one of the people who has been more active in bringing together the community of the environmental research infrastructures that belong to the group so-called EMRI. So I hope, Anka, you will be able to give us the view, of course, from FMI, but also your experience with the research infrastructure cluster. Next is Li Qingqing. Welcome, Qingqing, to this panel. Qingqing is director of SES Cloud in Beijing from the Chinese Academy of Science. SES Cloud has been one of the partners of the EGI Federation and one of the 31 research clouds that participate in this global endeavor, already supporting structural biology and ISCAT, who is a research infrastructure for space research in Europe, bringing together China and European countries. So my hope, Qingqing, is that in this panel we can hear from your perspective from China. It would be really great to hear from you with your pitch on how China is addressing scientific computing in the country and how you see international collaboration evolving in the future. And last, we have Ignacio Blanquer. Ignacio is a professor at the Technical University of Valencia, and here is representing EGI, which is the data space for cancer imaging. Within EGI, Ignacio is coordinator of the central hub. And Ignacio, besides your experience, of course, in different research infrastructures, and by the way, also long-term experience as a board director of ESC, I think with your angle, with EGI, we would like to hear how the data spaces will become part of the big family of infrastructures for science. I think this is an overarching question from an EGI perspective. I'd like to hear also your view, not only from the research communities in Ibergrid in Spain, but also with these new players that we are having with the support of the European Commission. So with this introduction, I asked the panelists to address two simple questions. So one question is, with your experience, what is the challenge that your research community or the research communities you participate in will face in Europe in the coming decade? And with this, what will be the trees we needed to plant to address these challenges? So what are the opportunities for you, for EGI, to address these challenges together? So our panelists today were very kind to help going through these two topics with slides. So we will see one slide each that brings already their view about these two discussion points. And we will go through these pitches with each panelist, and after that we will start engaging and discussing. So let's first hear from Annabella. And as we said, Annabella brings the perspective of a national scientific community. And in your discussions, Annabella, you have also been engaging with China, with other countries in Coast Predict. It would be really nice if you can also bring your national perspective on how we can work together to address these global initiatives supported by the United Nations. So, to you.
Okay, thank you for the invitation. I'll start by saying that I'm a researcher that has been working on scientific management for the last years. So it's very important for me to make sure that my fellow researchers have all the conditions they need to do their work. And my answers to these questions were planned along those lines. So I started by organizing the researchers in those that are proficient in the availability and the use of the scientific infrastructures like EGI, and those that need these infrastructures that don't know how to get there. So starting with the first ones, of course, funding is a concern for everyone, and that's always going to be there, and that's positive in my viewpoint. But the problem is that when we get the funding to do a specific problem, then we need to go to parallel workflows to get the computational resources. So I think it would be very important to have a match and harmonization of getting the funding and the computational resources. And I think that requires that AGI and the other scientific infrastructures to have a strong connection with the funding agencies, in particular the European Commission, that when you apply for a fund for a project, you'll get the funding and the resources. And of course, the scientific infrastructures would be funded to give that support. That would make the process very, very clear and very, very fast. So it's a kind of a fast track for those of you that travel a lot, and I travel a lot, a fast track for science, a fast track for the researchers to take advantage of the European research infrastructures, European and worldwide. Then we have the other people that, in particular in this realm of AI modeling and prediction and methodologies spreading across the world, we are going to need a lot of computational resources. And many people are not aware, in one hand, and don't know how to get access to these resources. They don't know what is the procedures, and when they have the resources, they struggle to use them in an effective way. So there, my vision, my view, is to help people go beyond the local resources. It's easy, it's there. I know the persons that manage it, but it's not big enough for what I want to do. So for them to go and embrace federated IT resources and know how to use them. And for that, I think EGI and the other infrastructures need to think about training in a very serious way. So probably we need to make some kind of agreements with the universities. So courses on these particular issues of running things in a cloud or an HPC resource is part of the training of the young researchers. Because if they learn that there, they're going to know it for their whole career, okay? Okay, another important thing, and I've been talking about this for a long time, it's a long-term wish, is that sometimes it's difficult for people to use the resources in an effective way. And why? Because many research groups don't have IT colleagues with them. And there's a gap between the services from HGI and the ability for people to use it. I've been noticing along the years that HGI has been making a lot of effort in that direction, so the services are getting more and more user-friendly, or more and more user-friendly for non-IT people, but I think there's still some work to be done there, and I'll be most glad to help getting in that direction, because I know from some of my colleagues that they look at what the proficient ones are able to do, and they want to do the same thing, but sometimes they require a lot of my IT collaborators to get there. So that's something that I think that can effectively be done. Regarding the last question of Tiziana, well, we have been collaborating a long time with people across the globe. ELNEC is an old institution that has been doing engineering work throughout the world. We have had a lot of collaborations in the scope of Cost Predict, in particular in helping shape the portfolio of solutions they want to implement. And there's one particular initiative, which is Global Coast, and Global Coast is going to implement the Coast Predict portfolio in many places across the world. And for that, I think the connections with the infrastructures worldwide is very important. In the case of LNEC, we have been shaping a collaboration with Macau, and it's a very important collaboration for us, because it would help us to implement our tools and have a collaboration with people that are developing important tools that complement our science. So this linkage through the infrastructures is very important. I don't know if I answered everything you want.
ask a question, and then we go to Anka for her pitch. So among the themes you brought up, one of the things you have pointed out is resource allocation, and you are from Portugal, from a national performing organization. When you go globally to support initiatives like Coast Predict, if I understand properly the initiative, this means bringing together hundreds of data providers and across really the globe, as you say. So there is an inherent complexity and challenge in bringing key players from many, many different regions if there is a need to integrate data and enable the data access at global level. So my question is, how can we do this? It looks very difficult. What is your desire, and what do you suggest doing?
Well, we are going to probably, it gets funded, going to do that with China in Macau, and implementing what we have been implementing with EGI in their own infrastructure. And I think if everything is based on services, things that are containerized and are easy to export, it will take some time, yes, and there are always limitations on the way infrastructures are run differently. But I think the principle of modules, things that can be put in pieces, can facilitate in one hand. On the other hand, I think the best practices and ways to help the new implementations, with the example from previous ones, like forum and principles like that, can help this be a reality. Other than that, would be to federate resources across the globe. And that can also be done, of course.
I would like to go back to this topic on federation of resources with you, Chin, later on. Perhaps the last comment about this idea of having scientific communities like yours working with scientists from China or other regions. What has been working well in the EGI Federation has been really having a separation of concern, meaning being able through our council to mobilize as much as possible national investments which are sustainable because they rely on national long-term strategies of the research ministries, but then team up with organizations like ELNEC and many others who have the domain expertise, have the knowledge of the science of the user needs. And this has been the key for success and for impact worldwide. And I would say definitely this model where the scientific community is in fact a key player in the infrastructure provisioning, but acting at a higher level in the software stack is fundamental. And about the training, which you also brought up, it is my belief that European infrastructures without really these strong roots at university level and in national research performing organizations, they won't have the capacity, even the network to reach out to the students, to the scientists, because they work in their labs and they are not concerned about European politics. So without this key hand which connects and brings delivering training where the universities are, where the scientists are, it will be very difficult. So it's really for challenges which are global, this ability to work in a very coordinated manner and relying on the best capacities of each stakeholder in this complex endeavor is the only way to do this. In the past, we were able to, as EGI, to deliver impact where we had very strong and active scientific communities. But thanks for these key points. So we can go to the next, let me see, the next slide. This doesn't show too well, but this is LifeWatch. So Christa's next in the line.
Thanks. Diana, when I saw first those two questions, I thought, this is going to spark a lot of discussion here. Anyway, the first one is what are the challenges that the research communities in Europe face in their research with regards to compute data, intensive workflows, and online collaborations. And the first thing is that this landscape is severely spread out, and they can't find, instantly what they want, you see? So they have, to go through the web, through multiple, let's say, web pages and try, to find out. It's difficult to navigate because, I was saying this with somebody in the dinner. Scientist is a complex and a difficult citizenship, actually. It's very difficult to deal with these people because their needs are very complex. And that's the point. It's difficult, because of the language, of the different languages, the infrastructures used, and the scientists understand. And that's a huge problem that raises, some barriers in the navigation. Then they have, some of them, from our perspective, I could cite, the scientists working on the omics. They have, high demands because their research is multi-dimensional and sometimes, cross-domain, and that brings a lot of data that they have, to be explored and analyzed, which is actually the next point. And also, this brings an additional problem, which is how to handle this data, and that refers, from the management all the way to the interpretation of the results from the analysis. Each community has its own special analytical needs. So it needs a customized development. That means, working hand to hand with the infrastructures and in a lot of the cases with the research infrastructures. And of course, for those who have needs, for intensive analysis, that comes with a cost. And this is difficult, to be met because these communities, they don't all have access to resources, in order to pay. And the second question was about the opportunities that the scientific infrastructures like EGI should consider to deliver more value to research. And I think that you started first, and you showed, already in your last slide, which you were talking about the future, actually, of EGI. And I think that elements that they were there were technology advancement through computer continuum, through digital twins, development and so on, innovation and experience. Experience is very, very important. Then, based on what I said, to the previous question, co-design and co-development is key here. You need to go, hand in hand, step by step with them. Try to understand, perfectly at each stage of their analysis what they mean, how they do it. Otherwise, you may end up, developing something which is not applicable, for that community. It might be applicable for any other community, for example. There are cross-cutting challenges, and that brings the challenge of the expansion of your core services, which you are on track on this, because I saw from, again, from your presentation, that you are trying to expand, core services in order to tackle this kind of challenges. Affordable resource availability, that has to do, of course, with the business plan of the EGI, but also any scientific infrastructure. We do not exist, because we just want it. Everything comes with a cost, and that cost, needs to be recovered from somewhere. We all try, to do our best in order to have the services available, with the lowest prices, if you allow me, to say something like that. But at some point, some kind of value needs to be added to the product, not only to the services. And then somehow there is a point here to expand the services beyond the creation of the evidence. That means, that in the scientific thinking, we start, from having an idea, then trying, to make a model through observations, then making a hypothesis, and then on and on. And finally, we analyze the data and we get, some evidence. But as I saw from the presentations today, it's difficult, to handle the data that are produced by many of the models, by many of the heavy analytical services. And we'd better, find a solution, and better do it, quite fast, because this is very important. And it is very important because these are the data on which political decisions are being made, okay? So let's say, making fair everything else before and leaving out, the last part is not, the smartest policy for the scientific infrastructures. We'd better, think about that, and we'd better, try to find some solutions. I heard, today that there are services that produce, petabytes every day, or, it's crazy, but we need, to come up with some kind of solutions. This is really important. I'll stop here.
So perhaps, Christos, you allow a question, which is the following. There is, as we understand, a growing concern in Europe about digital sovereignty and the ability to process and access the data, which is vital for science, with technologies which are accessible and democratically available to scientists. So I like to have, because in the EGI Federation, we rely primarily on research data centers which receive public money for their mission. What is your view as infrastructure that is engaged in data integration about the digital sovereignty? Is it something of concern for LifeWatch?
I think it's for every research infrastructure up to a certain level. It all depends, on sometimes, legal issues. It all depends, on the availability of the data centers you're talking about. I think that a large part of, to solve, this situation is somehow how to federate these data centers. And that's a huge question, I think. We have, some experience, within LifeWatch, but LifeWatch is not an infrastructure. We're not trying, to do what you do, but that's a difficult, thing to be settled, especially when the data centers are spread all over, different countries with different concepts of what a data center is and how a data center should actually cater the needs of the scientific community. I'm not sure if I reply to your question.
I would say so. Yeah, one of the challenges that we're seeing through our members is that with a perspective of constant, in the past decade, or potentially shrinking research budgets in the coming few years, there will be probably a renewed need for federation as a way to maximize access to existing investments and share as much as possible digital infrastructures which may serve multiple disciplines. So the federation is in general an enabler but specifically in a situation like the one we will probably face in Europe for the coming few years, this will be probably even more necessary for reasons which go beyond the policy and accessibility of the data.
Can I
Yes.
have just half a minute on this? In our topic, biodiversity and ecosystems, we have many members. I'm talking about the research infrastructures, okay? And the countries, as you say, you know, they face this shortage of resources to invest in all of them. But on the other side, they see, you know, that as a game of competition, which is completely wrong. As you say, it should be seen, you know, as a game, you know, federation, making, you know, more and more, let's say, complete research infrastructures by uniting, you know, a few smaller ones, you see, especially in biodiversity and ecosystem research, because primarily this is cross-domain research. And they don't understand that. So the other way around is also, not that I contradict, you know, your argument, on the contrary. The other way around is to try to find out, you know, additional ways of funding. And I think that the new landscape in the European research area will offer, you know, such opportunities.
So Christos seems to be more optimistic than I've been. Let's continue with the next pitch, and we go to Anka.
Thank you. Unfortunately, the last...
Yes, it's a conversion from Google Slides to PowerPoint, so I hope you can remember the last bullet.
Yeah, I have it
You
here.
have it.
So, Christos, you were saying that scientists are very complex people. They are. But they are also very, very simple, I would say. They know what they need. It's just that nobody's asking them. And we should do that. We did that in US Future. And it was very simple. They need time. That was number one. And data was the second one. So they still cannot find data in 2020, okay, it was 23, 22. Yeah? And Europe is full of data. The world is full of data. We are drowning on data. But the problem is that it's scattered all over the place. It's in institutional silos, in national repositories, in research infrastructures, in general repository, et cetera, And I can tell now from the environmental research point of view, in the world there are 200 repositories related only to climate change. No researcher in its right mind will go through 200 repositories to find the data. They will go to Zenodo, they will go to dataset search, maybe a national repository, and that's it. Which means that a lot of high quality data will not be found. And therefore we need somebody to gather this in a federative way, because I'm hearing all the time the federation, which I totally agree. And it would be so much easier for everybody to find the data. And then, indeed, so they are open, data is open there, but it's practically buried. So I would say nowadays that findability and also accessibility have become the first casualty of this digital abundance. It's a big problem for the researchers. Again, in Europe, we have a lot of computing capacity. This is not a problem. But the problem is that researchers don't speak IT. Please understand, it's like Chinese, sorry. Yes? Shimon today showed a very, very nice, several slides with what it takes for a researcher to get access to an HPC. It was a huge list of unknown to me words. And they are trying nowadays to make it so that it's easier for the researchers to gain this capacity. a disability to use the HPC. So instead of going through 10 steps where you absolutely need somebody that is professional, to half of that and written in a human way. Yes, we absolutely need that. AI is very cool. Yeah, we all know that. But if we want to feed an AI with data, the data is a mess. It's still a mess. So everybody talks about AI in science, but the reality is that most scientific data sets are not ready for machine learning, yes? We know very well there are inconsistent formats and no annotations whatsoever, poor provenance, etc., etc., etc. So AI will not fix and will not help science until science is fixing its data. And we still have to teach researchers how to do that. Reproducibility, I don't know. You know very well that this is quite a mess. So you can't reproduce what is not captured in the first place. And even if someone tries to do that, they probably will not have access to the same environment and tools and compute, etc. So unfortunately, I don't know who we is, but science in general, the system, whatever, we pretty much normalized the irreproducible science. We just let it go. We don't check. Now EOSC, should I say it? I will drop my polite facade, yes? And EOSC looks great on slides. It's a very beautiful concept, but did it fix anything? Think about it. Did it fix any of those? Nothing. It's just noise, isn't it? It didn't simplify the landscape, although it's supposed to do that. And I really hope that at a certain moment it will, but not at the moment. I just wanted to give the example of Every Hub Next, because it's a kind of trying to do at a smaller level what EOSC didn't and hasn't, yes. Mainly, let's make things actually work together. So we are connecting 20 plus research infrastructures from the environmental domain. We align formats, we support actual workflows. So we do this unglamorous, boring work, which is real and which is needed. Shall I go to the second one, because I took a lot of time? So what should the EGI do? Yes, I wrote there be the plumbing, but not the palace. So researchers don't need anymore another platform, another front end. They need compute, they need storage, they need a proper AI, metadata that just work. And I think EGI could be the connectors and the builders of, the tools that researchers already trust. A palace without plumbing, we know what happens there. So basically you have to fix what is already existing and connect whatever exists, because Europe is full of great services, but they are not connected. And we need this final integration. So it means that you have to do the work again, which is boring, but it's everybody needs it. Make AI usable, because obviously AI is nothing magical, but it needs a structure, it needs annotation, accessible data. We don't need, I need 10 data sets from 10 places, and I need 10 passwords to get there. This is unacceptable for every single researcher. Stop following the politics. I know, I wrote there, I know, it's impossible. However, and I think you actually do follow the science, and the politics, I mean IOSC, yes? It is important, it will be important, but the current direction is completely disconnected from reality. Completely disconnected. Doesn't have anything to do with what researchers need and what they want. They like to, let's go with strategies, with KPIs, white papers. Nobody cares in the research world about KPIs and white papers. Well, basically you have to, EGI and any other infrastructure needs to actually help researchers to align with what they need, and not and you basically have to do it today and not in the next roadmap. And I think the last one that it's not written there, I wrote, we need infrastructure that disappears when it works and it screams when it doesn't.
We will fix the slide online for that. So let me add a couple of comments, and I hope also the audience will have the opportunity to ask or bring their point of view. So you said less politics and more real field work. However, as you also pointed out already, actually every panelist, there is a lot of complexity in bringing data and infrastructure together. And I believe LifeWatch is Chris is nodding, but all the research infrastructures know it takes years to be able to go from concept into real services and usable services. And this is typically, I think you said, it's boring work. I would say it's hard work. But probably you want to say, or maybe this is my interpretation, it's work which doesn't sell too well politically. Because it's not the new thing, the shiny thing, the big thing that goes on a newspaper. And politics, we have to be real, needed that as well. So perhaps we don't need the politics, but good advocacy, I believe. This is my belief, that without making the funders aware of the boring work, using your word, we won't have this steady funding that is necessary to bridge the gap between science and the actual digital infrastructure and all its components that we need. So going back also to Sergio's metaphor, we need the trees that grow over 20 years, but without rain, the trees will die when it's still too early to see the shade. So yes, complex, and especially in Europe, as we are very divided.
It is a boring work, and we know that. And I think I said I'm glamorous, but it's absolutely necessary. That is actually the work that we need. Because politics goes indeed for the flashy thing, big declarations and shiny dashboards, etc., etc. And also politics is, likes to follow the new trends. Politics changes every 2 years. But this is not enough for us to build whatever is needed. So we go for AI, we go for digital twin, that's fine. But we didn't fix the things that are at the base of to build all these things.
Yeah. We need steady funding for that as well. It's very hard, as we know, that having steady funding for operations, support and training is not easy. It's an important point. Let's go to the next pitch. So, Qingqing, this is your time, and really I look forward to your view, because China is different, has different structure, different politics. So please tell us about the challenges and the opportunities from your point of view.
Thank you. Indeed, China has different environment and different policy from Europe. These two questions is very interesting, and I hold our team together to discuss it yesterday night. So we conclude six points to advise. Maybe it's not right, but you can consider it. And firstly, we think accessibility and scalability are pressing technical concern. Many scientists can't access HPC or other computing resource not very easily. So we can consider to build a newer, more suitable architecture or some other method to help them. The first is this. The second point is that AI is very important in China. China invent much more money into it, and though some people say that AI is a black box, we can't make sure that the data is safe to use in the right method, not to use to any other bad direction. So I think most one know that in this spring there is a new model named DeepSeek in China, and we think the important feature of the DeepSeek is that it can deploy and implement local environment. It can provide service, not need to connect to the internet, in a closed environment, and to access the data. Any other link from outside cannot access it. So local implement of the model is very useful and can make sure that data is safe, we think. And in SaaS Cloud, we have deployed a platform of including DeepSeek and Qianwen and other model user in China, scientists in China use SaaS Cloud can choose any of the list model use our panel. So we can provide a model service to all scientists in China, so they can use this very easily. AI not only can do the prediction, we think is very excellent and brilliant PhD. This PhD educated by many other subjects and is very clever and can help us to do anything, including connect data and knowledge, can analyze, can conclusion, can help you do anything in science. It's really practical things. So we think EGI should face it. It's a very important thing. We should plan more resource into it, and maybe scientists in Europe can benefit it a lot. The second thing, we should ride the wave of AI innovation. We can't make us follow. We can't make us outside the list bars. It's very important. The third is from the perspective of cybersecurity and data privacy, especially when dealing with sensitive data and other information. Many scientists can concern that my data is not, if it is safe. So EGI maybe should take the responsibility to make sure that, or make every user calm down, encourage them to share their information or share their data. So EGI should do it. third thing that is we should face the sustainability and green computing are no longer optional consideration. Is definitely our choice. This is the first three point. Besides, we must also confront global inequality and make sure that sustainable development of humanity without appropriate policy is where we will not succeed. In essence, those challenges spanning both technical and governance aspects require a concerned effort from all users, all members of EGI. We should come together and to face the challenge together. We will. And for the second question that we have with another simple points. The first one, we suggest EGI to strengthen pan-European computing infrastructure to unify HPC and other cloud ecosystems and AI, including AI and advanced computing integrations. The first thing is this suggestion, and the second is open data ecosystems, and EGI should establish uniform data formats and other standards. So this could involve developing a pan-European data marketplace or whether that allowed secure. This is the second one. The third is we should build an integrated collaboration platform. Maybe it's already used, but we can upgrade it and listen the suggestion from users more. And the fourth is bridging skills and training gaps. Different scientists has different background and different skills. We should help those not very skilled scientists to help them to do their scientist works. And the fifth is enhancing sustainability and long-term infrastructure planning. In China, you know, we always plan the whole schedule every 5 years, and 5 years by 5 years is a long-term plan. Long-term plan should ensure us to make sure that resources enough. Policy is not change frequently, and every scientist has the same or has the firmly aim. So it's very important. We should plan. Maybe we can't plan the tree 20 years ago, but maybe we can plan it 5 years ago. The last one I suggest is that we should continue to expanding global partnership and inclusions. We should build more wide international collaboration networks. Foreign partnership with global research infrastructure is very important, not only for Europe, it's also for China and Europe, United States and other such as Africa. And we should build inclusive engagement with diverse community, not only in Europe, but also the whole world. So friendly is very important for us. That's all, thank you.
So Anka said less politics, but I think your last message, I think, was a great response to that in a way. So how would you see China and Europe or EGI coming together to support the challenges like those described by Annabella, like, for example, the Coast Predict UN initiative? What would be the next step from your point of view?
Maybe I think maybe it's a little important possible that we can open our resource in China, including AI capacity, AI modern, AI computing skills, and some other data software tools. We can open what resource we can open and share with scientists in Europe. In my lecture this morning, I said that China linked into internet 30 years ago by the help of United States and Europe. So these years we appreciate it, and we think that human develop responsibility is our work. It should on our shoulder together. So I think we can open what I can open to first to Europe, the second to Africa, Latin American, and some Australia, Singapore, all for the world. And we should together to build this relationship more deep, more wide. I think so. Thank you.
I'm almost moved, I have to say, after what you said. And I don't think this needs any further comment, but thanks for this message. So last but not least, we should have Ignacio.
Thank you so much, Tiziana. So let me first explain a bit. So in this panel, I'm trying to bring the view of the Cancer Imaging Federation. I'm the coordinator of the Central Hub. The Cancer Imaging Federation is an infrastructure, federal infrastructure for gathering medical imaging related with cancer and associated data. So we're facing similar problems, but I thought that it was better to bring this specific topic because I can precise much more the needs. One of the aims that we have, the plan that we are doing, is to create an EDIC, an European Digital Infrastructure Consortium, which will be the legal entity that will sustain the infrastructure in the long term. And this links quite well what you have mentioned about the data spaces, right? So data spaces in the case of health, this is the first one that has started with a regulation, an approved regulation from the 5th of March of this year, that is mandatory for every country to fulfill. And therefore, but it was started without considering the research infrastructures. I mean, there was a strong debate months ago about what will be the role, because it was formed considering the countries, the hospitals, data holders, industry, but not the research infrastructure, which were international and they were not lying on this. But research infrastructure were following, pushing, and having ideas, and managed to have one type of entity that will fit them. So I think if all the data spaces are following a similar approach of having a regulation, it will be very important that research infrastructures do not, lose the opportunity of ensuring that there will be a specific role for them. I'm going to the challenges and the opportunities, trying to be brief considering the time. So in the specific case that we have I think that we share many of the problems. We have a large fragmentation, but even it's more important, more complicated, because we have the problems of the national regulations, especially for the sensitive data. Second is the trustworthiness. I mean, this is also shared with what we have heard from the other communities, but in this case, it's extremely important because the outcomes of the developments and the research could impact the health of the humans, and therefore we have to be very sure that the data sets that we are using are properly annotated and do not have biases. And there's an enormous capacity. Everybody is now creating foundational models of medical image, things like this. I think that we are bursting cycles that necessarily that we should coordinate in order to have a real good approach, because this is not like in previous simulation activities that you can do it by yourself, and you need millions of CPU, GPU, GPU hours, and therefore you have to coordinate. So opportunities going in the same direction, the fragmentation, we have a very important opportunity, the European Health Data Space, and there's a place for research infrastructure that is called the authorized participant roles, in which international collaboration can keep the data that they have already collected, but also act with the legal ground of the European Health Data Space. So there's a possibility. But, however, appears a new element that is another opportunity. Data must be processed in secure processing environments only. And I think that infrastructure like EGI have a very good opportunity to have nodes, have partners that can provide such type of infrastructures, because this will be required at national level, right? At least national level. The international collaboration between secure processing environment is well defined, but not implemented at all. Second, I mean, with respect to the trustworthiness and the provenance, again, taking the role of the HDS, of the European Health Data Space, there are two mandatory things: the quality label, which is a standardized label in which you identify you define which is the quality of the data set that you are sharing, including all the details on the provenance. The provenance is a mandatory argument in the HealthyCat AP specification that defines the metadata. So therefore, we have the framework to use all the tools that have been developed in the community and ensure that we can have this traceability in the development. Joining, processing, and data hosting that we can have in the research infrastructure can ensure that this coupling is done. And finally, I mean, we have a sound community of hundreds of thousands researchers. It's a very good place to identify these key actions that should be done in coordinated way to avoid, replicating efforts that are highly costly and trying to reach really impact in the community.
You've mentioned how complex it is to meet regulations at the national and European level. Do you think EGI should partner more with the industry to support this kind of use cases?
It will depend. It will depend. The information that I have is countries are, the implementation of data spaces that do not come from the science ministries, come from digital transformation, industry, all these kind of ministries that are more in relation with industry. So the solution that they are looking for, typically they find it on the industry. Secure processing environments are being procured from industry, or at least this is the approach. But there are countries in which, but the Commission has a clear understanding that the experience that we have in research with the trusted research environment and the rest is very valuable, and we have to bring them, right? So I think it will be important. I am not that sure that industry, because industry is going on its own direction, but ensure that we promote having certifications on security in our constituency and have some partners that manage to get it, which I know that they are starting to get.
Okay, I think I should have been tighter with the management of time, and I've eaten the time for you to ask questions. But our panelists will be around and we will walk up, I think, to the main place for the next session. So I'd like to join me in thanking our panelists, first of all. Thanks. We will process all of this. We are engaged to consolidate all the feedback and also publish it as an outcome of this session. So Sergio, you did a lot of work consolidating the polls, but I suggest we will do this. The slides will be available online, but we will do this in our newsletter as a summary. And we close with a final word by Sergio.
can have the slides, please? Okay, Marco. I will be very quick, just 2 key messages. So first of all, okay, on Tuesday, we are now in the opening session, we announced these 3 questions to help us to learn from you how we should, what is your viewpoint on the strengths of EGI, the areas of improvements and the opportunities. The 3 questions, they are still open, so if you didn't reply, you still have time. And so far we received 49 replies for the first one, open on Tuesday, 30 for the second and 20 for the third, which was open today. We will share the slides online with the current summary. And I already made some analysis of what we received. It was during lunch. But I will just not to steal your time from the micro coffee break before the next session. So this will remain open. The poll will remain open until Tuesday next week, and then we'll do the final analysis. And I have, because you have been patient, I have a prize for everybody. Our colleagues from remote, from the communications team that are not here, managed to finalize the EGI annual report from 2024. So this already been published today. You will find it on the website, and you can download it and read on your way back home. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So if you have comments, agree or disagree also with our panelists, we would like to hear from you on WUVA. So you will have an opportunity to leave a message and your voice about the topics that we discussed in the panel. So thanks again for your inputs, and see you later.